Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 474, and today we're doing battle with scouts. And so the time is a flat circle. Time is an endless circle. Can circles be endless? I don't know. But the way every meta has gone for the past 2 years or so is new cards come out, people get all excited about the new cards and play with them for a couple of weeks, and then after a couple of weeks, some brilliant soul, some genius mind in the space of Legends of Runeterra goes, hey, I bet Scouts is good in this meta, and they're just literally never wrong. And so the fun thing with this current meta is we are starting to see Scouts start of bubble its way up to the top a little bit as being a deck that is quite relevant in this current format. And so it's just the way that this thing is kind of spelled itself out. If you're wanting to think about how a lot of the Janna decks handle their early gameplay, they're trying to use removal spells like Mystic Shot and Divine Whirlwind. They're trying to do 2 and 3 points of damage with a removal spell, and that just doesn't play particularly well into units that summon other units like Mirai Warden and Island Navigator and Quinn, and then it also doesn't play well into higher health units, 4 health being an extremely big breakpoint, and so we're having access to things like blocking Badger Bear and Island Navigator and Quinn again to really drain a lot of those cards out of the opposing deck. Moving on to something like the Warden of the Tribes decks, they don't interact very well. And so when you have champions like Misfortune, she's able to just sit on the board in landmark mode, watch us attack time and time again, and then she's able to fairly easily flip if the opponent's not going to be doing any interacting with her. And so while I'm not trying to advocate that this deck is super strong against a lot of the top contenders, it certainly has a lot of good game and a lot of good strategies against the current top 2 decks of the meta, those being Janna of some flavor and Warden of the Tribes of some flavor. But where Scouts really starts to shine in this meta is against the kind of counter decks, right? You start to see a lot of things like Samira Annie turn up. You start to see things like Elusives turn up. And these decks that are really kind of trying to prey on the opponent's non-interactivity. And when you come out and say, oh boy, I'm able to interact. I have all of these challengers and all of these must-answer units. You give those decks a lot of fits. And so it's not too surprising to see Scouts start to make a bit of a resurgence in the sense that it has some game against the top decks, and so it's kind of okay there. You always have game with Champion Strength being a piece of your deck. You can just beat anything in the meta with a proper Champion Strength, and then it's also good against the kind of third deck, the kind of counter to the counter deck of the meta. So it's kind of in an interesting spot. That's why we're doing battle with it today. And so in particular with the list that we're bringing here, it's got a few flex spots in it within my opinion. That tends to come down to how many Vanguard Sergeants do you want to play? Do you want to play Genevieve? Do you want to include any interactive spells like the Cataclysm that we have here? Do you want to include any other rallies in the deck? And the spaces that I tend to stand with this deck are any time that you draw multiple copies of Duran Sculptor. That is a disaster, so we're only playing 2 copies. The next thing to come down with this is the absolute strongest thing that this deck can be doing is building out a completely full board and then playing a unit boosting spell. And so the Inspired Lights and Champion Strengths are always a part of these decks, but I'm a big advocate for the full 3 copies of Vanguard Sergeant, the 4 Demacia just working so fantastically in those spots to where you have the full board, or even just a board to where you have 3 or 4 scout units on it and you get to attack with them twice. I am also in that kind of same scope wanting to have all of the unit boosters. That's why you're seeing Genevieve out here. I think she's excellent in that same capacity. And then we have the singular copy of Cataclysm, something that I'm considering moving up to 2 copies of because it just has so much game with everything that this deck does, whether or not that is cataclysming a scout unit on the opposing attack token to do as a kind of pseudo rally, ticking up our Misfortune or our Quinn as a free attack kind of thing, or using it just as the oh boy, I'm so boring kind of removal spell. It has a lot of interesting things that happen within this deck. And so that's it. That's what we're doing battle with today. You all are curious, do we need to pay the pay to win price? Absolutely not. Everything in this deck, all premium. The champions all skinned up. You got the Arcade Misfortune, the Arcade Quinn, the Arcade Board. Whew, feels good. Feels good to be so shiny out here. Good stuff. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I know I hyped scouts up a lot. The place where this deck tends to be weaker is going to be decks that just have tons of removal spells in it. And so if we start to see things like Heimerdinger Jace pop up, that's definitely a weaker matchup for us. And then decks like, we call them brawler-based decks. And so if you have a deck like Pantheon, or if you have a deck that has Varus in it, those are the kind of things that have classically given scouts some fits. We get our big wide board of units. We're prepared to block in the combats, and then the opponent just kind of goes, LOL, I'm going to attack you for 15 with one unit. And you block it and still take 13. And so it's kind of a rough spot there. But into battles here, up against the Kennen Riven deck. This is one of the wildfire-based decks, and I'm just basically wanting to be out here preventing as much damage as we can. And so with this board, I'm kind of fine with this. We shouldn't have to worry about any combat tricks coming in. We can block one of these units with our Fleet Feather Tracker, give it the form up, and then next turn we can look to Fleet Feather Tracker with the blocking Badger Bear and clear out another unit while generating blockers. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not a huge fan of taking all of this damage early. It does get the opponent in a spot to where, you know, they're pretty capable of wildfiring us out once we get down to about 12 or so. And so I would have preferred to have been able to get multiple units on board here, but the way that this was going to sequence out, that was our way to just spend maximum mana. Now, a little bit of a bummer with Mirai Warden turning up. Would have been the perfect play on the previous turn, but didn't want to hang out with us, didn't want to have fun. So let's just come in here. We'll make the trade with Kennen. I think this is fine. We should be able to fill out our board next turn. So I don't want to get too involved with this stuff right now. I don't want to come in and just make a trade with the Spirit of the Wuju. It's not crazy to think the opponent can't play more units than us, and so we'll take it a little bit slow here. But if he doesn't open attack, that's one of the better things that we can hope for if we're able to get the Mirai Warden down, match unit for unit, and then start trading after the fact. So, see how it goes. Bark Beast is an interesting addition. Certainly going to be losing some units in this combat. And then the next thing to kind of watch out for is we can build up to a For Demacia. And so we won't have it next turn, but we can play it next turn, I should say. No, we can't. We don't have... I'm envisioning the Vanguard Sergeant. I'll tell you exactly what I did. I thought that we were going to play Fleet Feather Tracker here. We're going to follow up with Shell Shocker, and then that Shell Shocker is going to attune, and I was like, cool, 6 mana. We can play the For Demacia next turn. Not entirely accurate. All right, though. Pretty good board. Should be able to kill off all the units they play. Ideally, we won't be taking any more combat damage from his units this game. Make him fully be on the Wildfire plan. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious with this spot, like how invested we need to get. Like I do want to be making multiple attacks, I guess, so that we have the opportunity to level up this Quinn. But I was kind of like eyeballing the Blade Squire out here, and it's like I don't really want this unit to die. I don't want him getting access to that extra spell, potentially starting to cause some problems with the likes of Riven. And so I'm leaning towards just something like this, a very small attack. We still have our Quinn coming through for probable extra damage. We're not losing any units. And then we can build up to this For Demacia a couple of turns from now. I think this is it. It's a little scary when he's got the the potential silence card in hand, and there's the chance he can remove our a chance he can remove our scout. What you got? A quick attack, overwhelm, so we take a point of damage. Okay. Very manageable turn. So we're just gonna pop off everything here. Again, the thing that worries me is rolling into this next turn with only one scout unit, right? We really want to be making this scout attack, and the spot we could run into trouble is if we say play 4 Demacia and then opponent gets to take the scout off of our Quinn. Now, we're a little bit safer here having 2 scout units on board. It's not to say opponent can't get out of this, right? You can potentially come in and say drop the stage hand and drop the quicksand thing all in the same motion. And so we're not completely out of the woods, but we got to be feeling pretty confident, assuming some of this stuff pops off. There's the quicksand and the stage hand. kind of is what it is. We'll still get an attack this round. His stage hand doesn't actually kill anything. We'll get in a few points of damage along the way. Clear this board out, so he's just got to essentially be on the wildfire plan. I know that he can potentially jump in with an elusive here, but hopefully he just doesn't have the perfect hand, right? Here's the start of the perfect hand as the Rejuvenating Breeze. I was going to say, it's kind of nice if he's on to where, you know, you can play Riven and do Riven stuff, but not have the wildfires, or have the wildfires but not other units. Like, as long as he just doesn't have everything, we should be in pretty decent shape. But now we're in this awkward-ass spot to where he can be like, Riven, 2 cards off of Riven, and then play double wildfire and kill us out of nowhere pretty much. Blade of the Exile in. Gonna be taking down our Quinn. Rip. You fought hard, girl. Bringing in the sword. Well, we'll get on board with what we can. I'm going to drop the Broadwing first. I definitely want to have access to our challengers next turn. And then we just got to kind of see what we draw. As it stands, we currently don't have a reason to not open attack, right? The attacking with Valor doesn't really do anything here unless we draw another unit. And so the big thing that we have going for us here is we've got 12 damage on board. And so we can hook both of his units out of combat and then potentially hit for the lethal. So we'll have to see if you know, if he has another Rejuvenating Breeze. If he does, we're just dead. But it's tough to tell. He's already played 1 Breeze, so you should kind of technically be wildfired up a little bit here. Oh, that's a problem. That's a problem. He drew all 3 Kennens this game. That was not interactivity I was expecting. So we're going to lose out on the Shell Shocker now as well. Very bad. So we really need to be spiking like a Champion Strength, or a Quinn would be okay. Champion Strength, beautiful. So we punch in for 6. The Broadwing doesn't die. We do lose the Vanguard Sergeant here. Then hopefully we can kill off the rally. So he's going to need a stage hand to get out of this, or another Rejuvenating Breeze. I guess Rejuvenating Breeze isn't quite enough. I was just thinking if one unit got through for damage, we need both units to hit to fight through the Breeze. Well, that feels decent, right? I guess. I don't know what else he's gonna add for his 2 mana that gets out of that. All right, GG. Man, you gotta squeeze the cheeks hard playing against the Wildfire deck. That was quite a bit more interactivity. I always get into that match and just like, yeah, they're never gonna interact with anything. They can't they can't do anything whatsoever. But that's not the case. And then they're able to just take you down from like 12, 15 with such ease. I still think the deck's garbage, but there's no denying that there's some power tied into the deck. It's just like, well, if you're not going to interact, like if you're going to let me deal like 6 or 8 points of combat damage, then you probably just lose if you're not going to end the game quickly. And so it's pretty scary. All right, on to Akshan Vayne. What do we got here? Classic curve, kind of starting with this deck with the tracker into the Warden into the Vanguard Sergeant. It's almost tempting to hang on to the champion's strength. It's a matchup to where it should be quite good, but we'll send it back. We got the 4 Demacia in hand to get a lot of action early, and I would assume that this deck has at least one Rite of Negation in it, so it's kind of a scary moment there. Get the Fleet Feather Tracker down. This is one of the cards I'm kind of considering dropping down to 2 copies of. There's not a ton of great units for the Fleet Feather Tracker to take down. It's like if Samira's not running around and you don't get that opportunity to pressure her, then the cards aren't as strong. But then you see us you see us come down and draw Misfortunes, and then you're just kind of like, oh well, maybe this is why it feels good sometimes, Oof. So speaking of feeling good, how many people saw the big news yesterday? This has been a wildfire of pop culture activity. And did you see Taylor Swift at the Chiefs game? And it's not only did you see Taylor Swift at the Chiefs game, it's the sheer volume of outlets that you can find reporting the news that Taylor Swift was indeed at the Kansas City Chiefs game. And so it was pretty wild to me seeing all the coverage and everything. I was watching the Chiefs game for the Chiefs game, and so I had the pregame coverage on. And then one of the first things that they note is Taylor Swift is at the game, and I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be huge. And so it's like all of the stuff that I follow in terms of social media. It's like you're running around looking at the fantasy football stuff, Taylor Swift. You're looking at the NFL stuff, Taylor Swift, and then you start scrolling through just like the likes of Reddit. I think just like in my first 2 or 3 pages of swiping, there were 3 Taylor Swift stories. It's just like, holy fuck, that has to be such a monumental just drain on your livelihood. I just have such a hard time imagining that people live life like this to where just you're constantly in the news 100% of the time. Kind of insane to me. But nonetheless, back into this battle, this is a scary spot, and so it's I like that we can make Misfortune a 5/5, but do we just outright lose the game to any combat trick? And the answer to that is no. For 1 mana, I don't think this deck is playing Catch. It might be playing the -2 attack thing, but that doesn't sound very good. I don't think there's a ton of worry in our Misfortune here. And I think if we do start to have a little bit of worry about our Misfortune, I don't think it involves her actually dying in combat. And so I felt like that was going to be a good one, probably 95% of the time. So now we do still have to deal with Badger Bear out here, but we can build up a lot of board around this thing. Champion Strength turning up. That'll be a useful little nugget for next turn. I'm looking to now. I do want to Inspired Light this board. Getting the 10 stats out of Inspired Light is quite good. We may not develop a humongous attack here, but I'm fairly okay with dropping Inspired Light, losing it to the blocking Badger Bear, and then just having a really strong combat across the rest of our board. That's more on the problematic side of things. Alright, so I think what I'm looking to do now is I want to still keep spending some mana, but we're not going to attack this turn, and then we'll start to consider Champion Strengthening next turn. We have a much better champion strength. I still don't really like it. I kind of like this idea of just building up more and more board. And so it's like now we can say Mirai Warden, we can drop an Inspired Light. We could probably even lose one of the units into combat here, and then look to just have all the mana spent next turn. So does he ever not attack here? It doesn't seem like a super safe attack at this point. What's he gonna do? He's gonna, like, if he puts a Swinging Glaive onto Vayne, I don't think we care. We'll still bring in the Inspired Light. Fine to just throw away one of these smaller units and then lose out on, say, like the Vanguard Sergeant. But I feel like on this next turn, we're not going to champion strength. I feel like this next turn is going to involve us just playing for Demacia. And then we can look to champion strength on the opponent's attack token. Right, this open attack right now is not very good with our Fleet Feather Tracker only having 4 attack. Doesn't take down any of these units at the moment. We'll wait on our stats. So I don't think it's the end of the world, even if he does have the Right of Negation. It's a very expensive one at this point. So we'll see how this goes.
Stand strong.
We got a bunch of stats. That's always cool. We are 1 damage short if he adds a unit, though, right? We have a 6, a 6, and a 5 as our smallest units. That's oh, that is 17, isn't it? Oof. Out here doing bust math. I did 5 plus 5 plus 6, and it turns out that's not what we have on board. GG. But no, I was wildly impressed. It's been, of course, the hot news out here in Kansas City is Travis Kelce officially dating Taylor Swift, and then she shows up at the she shows up at the game in the box seat with Travis Kelce's mom. Exciting stuff. I've got a Taylor Swift shirt on today just to kind of commemorate the moment. So I've been a big fan for quite a while. I enjoy a lot of the Taylor Swift work. The 1989 album is easily one of my top 5 favorite albums of all time. It's weird, the kind of collection of music I have within my top albums of all time. My favorite album of all time, it's a punk band named Rancid. Rancid and Out Come the Wolves is my favorite album. And then beyond there, I kind of have a few other ones that kind of work themselves in and out of the favorite album-ness. But it's one that 1989 is one that still certainly fits within my faves. It's always up there in my top 5. But up to battle next against Nidalee. This is one of the reasons I'm kind of curious about as to whether or not I want to bring a deck like Scouts to the Open. In the sense that when we look at what I kind of expect to happen very commonly in the Open is we're going to run into a space to where an opponent has a Janna deck, and then we're going to run into a space to where the opponent has a Warden of the Tribes deck. That's going to happen probably if we play 9, 10, 11 rounds of the Open. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen 6 times. And so then what your kind of question is like, what is your game plan against these decks? And the plan that I kind of have for it, the ideas that I want to be bringing in are to, what are we doing here? It's like we can't block the shadows in the brush. Because, no, he doesn't have Nidalee mana now, so we can block. Let's get the tracker down. It's like I want to be in a space to where I'm banning Janna. I think Janna is pretty obnoxious at this point, and I don't have a lot of desire to be doing battle against Janna decks, but I also don't want to be in a spot to where, if we ban Janna, do we have to play against a very bad matchup like Warden, or a very bad matchup like Nidalee, and then have to kind of 2-0 the Warden of the Tribes deck? And what I like about a lot of the lineups I've been kind of suggesting and a lot of the decks I've been suggesting is they have game against the Janna decks. And so if we do find ourselves bringing these lineups I like to bring with a lot of the Freylord stuff in it, then we have this spot to where we can actually pivot and look to ban this Nidalee deck, and then just have two matchups that are kind of coin flippy. And so I'm kind of interested to see how it eventually plays out. But this Nidalee deck, it's not good. This is, well, I shouldn't say the deck is not good. It's not good in the sense that this is a deck I don't really want to be playing against a lot of. But should be able to get a decent board clear here. We're going to have to just open with this for Demacia. He has 5 mana, so if he comes in and just drops a... an ambush, we can't play it. And then now, of course, we draw Misfortune. I'm not going to complain about that. We still have plenty of mana behind. We can get much more involved in this combat now that we have these combat tricks and now that we're going to have Misfortune on board. So I'm looking to drop the form up, hook in the Chief Knack attack, and then still attack with whatever else we can. The whatever else we can at this point is just going to be probably the Shell Shocker and the Vanguard Sergeant. I don't want to give up like all of our board, but because I want to get this full for Demacia on, but we do also need to be clearing out his stuff, and so maybe we are kind of stuck attacking with our combat ready friends here. Let's keep the Vanguard Sergeant back. Like, I don't want to just trade our units with this Bristle Hog. We do end up losing the Badger Bear to, like, the Halonatus and potentially whatever this flip is out here to the right, but I don't want to lose out on too much board. Okay. Let's see what we can do. We need a scout, or we need a champion strength. But again, the champion strengths can be kind of scary, as this could be an avenging Vestaya with the counter spell. But reasonable enough stuff here. We should be able to get a full clear on their board. I think they have to kind of be building up to where if he wants to win the game on his next turn, he probably needs to be hitting us with a landmark thing. So it probably needs to be dropping the landmark thing here over the course of the next couple of turns. But until we get to that point, I think we feel kind of okay. If he gets us with the big overwhelms, we're just going to be dead anyways. So I don't think we need to preserve our health. And then we'll just come in with the Badger Bear. If we draw another unit next turn, great. We can get it on board and do the full 4 Demacia, and then there's the landmark, right? That's the scary thing. Well, let's see if that Tycoon comes down. The thing with the big game Tycoon here that makes me feel at least a little safer is this Shadows in the Brush really needs to be a all-terrain trooper if he wants to play the Tycoon and get the good flip here, but doesn't look to be the case. So how bad is this if we forward Demacia and then he has the all-terrain, he has the Avenging Vestaya? I think that's probably what we're about to run into, but I don't think that's the end of the world if that's the game plan. It feels much better to just play for Demacia, have it fail, and then still have these additional wins for the future turns, because we still can get some good hooks in on this combat. We can get the Nidalee off the board, and then we don't have to worry about the rest of these units because they all kind of suck. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that really chaps my ass about these cards is I'm not entirely certain which of these is the landmark. The absolute key thing for us to be doing right here in this combat is taking down the landmark with one of our challengers, and I don't know which one it is. Like, I think it's this second bird, because this is fucking dumb. Like, this is literally the dumbest thing, that you can't highlight these cards and figure out which one is the right one. Aurora Halanadas created this one, so is it this guy on the left? I don't know. It would be cool if we could find out the most critical piece of this game, but fucking dumb. Let's find out how wrong I am. Can't wait. Can't wait to find out. Cool. We picked the wrong one. Awesome. And so there's a very high percentage chance we just lose the game now. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else you're supposed to be doing in this spot. Like, how... There's just no way to tell. And then, like, if your opponent, depending on how they pick up their units, like how you slide your cards left and right across the board, there's no way to actually tell which unit your opponent has selected in terms of are you now facing down what you think to be the landmark. Like, it's just fucking dumb. And so, well done on that one, Riot. Very, very nice. Like, you can come out and audibly say all these nice things that you want to do, but it's so stupid. All right, well. Let's come out here and not die, at least. So dumb. Like, we 100% lost this game because we were not able to select the right unit at that point. Very cool. Maybe we should have 4 Demacia. That might have helped with the turn as well, but the same thing still applies. Like, I love so much that's happened with, like, being able to see the history thing on the left and being able to look at the Oracle's Eye and stuff, but that has to be the absolute biggest oversight for the Valley of Imitation in my mind. That, you know, there's no indicator, there's no way to tell, oh boy, I'm selecting the correct card right now. And like, this was the main reason as to why you can only have 1 ambush unit on the board, right? You can be in these spots to where, imagine your opponent puts 2 ambush units on the board and then they kind of fucking shuffle them up as they push their units out into the attack space. Like, that is the exact reason why Riot said, we are not going to allow you to have more than 1 ambush unit on the board. And then there's like the exact same thing just happens with the Valley of Transformation or whatever, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not saying if we had won that game, like if we'd picked the correct one, we would have been able to outright win that game. Like, I started just throwing there towards the end anyways because I was getting pissed, but that's so dumb. It's like, oh man, we've made this decision to where ambush cards are not allowed to be prismatic because we don't want you to be in this spot to where something happens and you have a prismatic unit on the board and that indicates, oh, opponent has, I click the thing and opponent's Nidalee is not a prismatic, and so they made the like physical decision that the ambushes can't be prismatic, because you could say, oh look, Nidalee is not prismatic. I look at the board and there's a non-prismatic Nidalee, or, you know, one way or the other. And it was just a conscious decision with the ambushes. But then the Valley of Transformation is like, let's just fuck around with this. Y'all want me to complain anymore? Should I be out here complaining about anything else? Probably. Did you all see Taylor Swift at the Chiefs game? That'll get us back in a better mood. Alright, but let's see what we can do here. I don't want to be throwing any units away. We have a combat trick in hand, so we don't necessarily have to, and then we're building up to a 4 Demacia, which should get a pretty big clear on the opposing board. And so I'm going to just keep taking it a little bit slower here. Whatever he hooks with the Broadwing, we can protect with the form up, and then on this next turn, we can look to Vanguard Sergeant. I guess unless if he wants to hook the Shell Shocker, that gets kind of out of the problem, but... Nice. The classic spot to where I can't do the math for 4 Demacia. It made sense to a degree there, right? To where if we didn't play the form up, then we would have been able to 4 Demacia next turn. But with the champion strength in hand now, I think we can build up to a champion strength on the following turn, and then still be pretty strong. This Fortune turns up. Boo. That is a problem. We're going to start losing a lot of units here. Let's go ahead and take this Fleet Feather Tracker trade. Even, well... It is going to have enough stats next turn, right? It'll have 5 health. Let's just let it go. And then see if he open attacks on us. If he doesn't open and we get this champion strength, we have a chance to pop off here. Oh boy, and Jarvan. Alright. That wasn't ideal. That was not ideal. I wonder if we should have just let that... I wonder if we should have just let the turn go with the... like the turn we played form up. Just let him get the kill with the Broadwing. And then on the following turn, we would have had that mana we needed to do 4 Demacias. Now it's like we're just in a bind, right? Because if he hits us with Warden of the Tribes next turn and has all these units on board, then we're just dead. And so we have to start doing something to clear these units out. But our clears here aren't that great. So I think we can bring something like this. I don't want to get involved with the Gnar and have him just get Pokey Sticks in hand and then get the reflip. And so it's pretty scary if we say try and hook Gnar with one of these smaller units and then he's able to get up to 7 health. But otherwise, I think this is fine. Probably didn't crack in for enough here. He's just going to Warden next turn. We needed this to be our champion strength turn, and we didn't take it. Okay. GG. That's the thing, though. When you're playing the champion strength decks, if your idea against the Warden of the Tribes is you have to be playing your champion strength before they drop the Warden, or you need to be like eliminating all of their units to where they play the Warden of the Tribes and just have 1 unit on board. And we were unsuccessful on both fronts. And so I think the problem with that game was that form up that we did. Now it does feel kind of scary as we're kind of rolling through the mid game there, and he's got access to like that extra challenger on board. It's just like we developed the Broadwing on our side and then just didn't do anything with it. And so I don't like how that all came together. Now this matchup is a nightmare. And this is Janna Seraphine. Tends to just be a big removal pile. And we don't play into removal piles very well. So it is generous of him to drop Seraphine here. Like the Durandi Sculptors can be a bit of a problem for them to deal with, since they have to start investing more removal into our units, right? He can't Mystic Shot, he can't High Note come in and kill our Durandi Sculptor, and so actually picking them up here has been kind of nice, given that he didn't put additional units on the board. And now we can continue to level up things like our Vanguard Sergeant. So we'll see how this continues on. We really need like a summoner now. We need a Mirai Warden. We need a Island Navigator. We need a Quinn. We need something to put multiple units on the board to really take advantage of these 4 Demacias or Inspired Lights. Fleet Feather Tracker. I was that's just about as bad as it can get. I was thinking in my head, I was like, this is the turn to where we draw the combat trick. I was like, that's what's gonna happen this round. We're gonna pick up the combat trick. Almost as bad as it can get having the Fleet Feather Tracker turn up, but we gotta start doing something with our stats. How bad is this gonna be? It's gonna be a 3 damage and a 2 damage, so we're only gonna get 2 units boosted here. Actual disaster, right? When we were talking at the beginning about how we want these games to go. What gives the decks like Janna problems? It's the health, which we've been able to kind of unlock out here with our Durandi Sculptor and Friend, but then you need the summoners as well. So not particularly going according to plan. Mirai Warden turn it up now. Makes sense. Makes sense. But we'll see if we can't get a big turn next turn. Genevieve coming in is kind of nice. Maybe we get to build up to a champion strength a little bit in the future. Sure. We're certainly not out of it at this point. Just we're certainly at an uphill climb. So we just need to be not losing units, right? how challenging can that statement be? Just out here not losing units. So we lose our Genevieve. Okay. So Janna can flip this turn if she wants to. He's got the coins in hand. Sun Disk? The fuck did that come from? What the hell? Oh, the back alley bar generated a Sun Disk. Why would you even play it? I guess it gets the Janna flip. Okay. So we'll see. I mean, things are looking pretty negative here. The positive upside to this turn is as we play champion strength now, he's going to have to block everyone. And so we get the chance to dive in, but I have to imagine this is going to look like it's going to be a coin, and then it's going to be another spell, and then it's going to be a rummage, and we're gonna start failing. Alright, get in there, friends. He's got to block everybody. Gets the Seraphine off the board. I wonder if he has another Seraphine in hand. Question answered. Sure. Alright, here comes the Seraphine flip. A rummage is going to be... I don't know. We're still in it at this point. He's got to have a lot go right here. Slipstream, same as rummage. But again, like this highlights one of the actual perks of playing scouts in the sense that we're still in it, right? We shouldn't be winning this game very frequently, but we still have a shot. We got a chance to take this one down. Like we get to attack, he has to block everybody. I don't know if he can kill us with the Mirai at this point. I have to imagine he fucked this up playing the Sun Disk, but we'll see. I don't know how critical that was to one of their flips.
Let this draft guide your hand. Steady hands.
Get in there, combatants. You can do it. You can do it. Just a handful of cards that cost 0 mana. It's like taking Janna down at this point doesn't even really do anything with the double back alley bar on board. Okay, we can champion strength within, we're just not even going to be able to deal damage. GG. Needed to be able to get in the kill on that open attack there, but again, it's good to be in that spot to where you have a shot, you have a chance, especially in a game that went so wrong. Like it did go well on the turn 2, getting to play the Durandi Sculptor, but not have it run into a removal spell. But everything from that point forward just went to shit. So kind of is what it is. All right, up against Jarvan Gnar again. See if we can't have a little bit more success in this one. Misfortune is a little bit more unfortunate on the even attacks. We won't get to use her until turn 4, but we have a scout unit to go with it, so maybe something delightful will come of that. All right, passing and passing. Form Up was actually a good draw. That was the card I was kind of thinking in my head. It's like, in this space, what do we actually want to be hitting? And it's essentially just a way to protect our Misfortune. And so, passing on this turn, dropping the Form Up, and then being able to start in on these Island Navigators is pretty good. We should be able to get her flipped in short order. If we have to fight through like one Cataclysm, I think we're okay.
I'm one of the good guys, but not that good.
All right, scout friends, let's get you on board.
The ocean charts our course.
So let's see how he spends that mana. This is one of these turns to where it is quite good to be dropping a Form Up, right? We're going to be making a scout-based attack here, but I think that only applies if we want to attack with both of our scouts, and that doesn't really strike me as a strong attack, right? We're attacking with the Navigator and the Elkin, but he gets to kill both of the units in combat. It's like we have to spend the combat trick, and so I don't like how any of that sounds, and so being able to save it a little bit later for our Quinn or for our Misfortune is where I think the goods are going to come through.
A good fight's the spice of life. Garlic works in a pinch.
You went big. Interesting seeing the Shepherd's Authority come through. Let's get to ignore the combat cook for now. Is he going to zing us for 10? It's a little bit more than 10, I guess. But how do we feel here? Like 13 coming from the combat cook and the Saurion. We can like get a little bit involved with this innovative blacksmith. Well, let's be real. We can just block the combat cook with the Fleet Feather Tracker, take 11, and call it a day. I think that's where we're going to be. Now, the technicality for this turn is we could potentially say, like, play the Form Up onto Quinn, but I think if we're going to be real, we're just going to play Champion Strength next turn, and we don't need to get too crazy in that sense. So the next question I have is, we have this hand to where we can open attack and then champion strength and then get 3 attacks in on the turn. That's what I'm kind of leaning towards. We have to kind of ask ourselves, can we ever win this game if the game rolls into the next turn? And Probably. I'm Ron Burgundy. That's where we're kind of feeling with this one. Let's just take it. If we get the triple attacks in, it should be okay.
Set sail.
All right. Attack number 1 in. Are we just gonna get cataclysmed out of this? Is that what's gonna happen again? Ugh. That's gonna be some nonsense. We're gonna get domed if that's the problem here, but we can at least survive it. So right, if you're not familiar with what I'm trying to pull off here, we made a regular attack, right? But we haven't made a scout attack for the turn. So we should be able to play Champion Strength here. We'll get the attack token back. We can attack with Island Navigator and Quinn. That's going to count as our scout attack for the turn. We get the attack token back and we can attack a third time, that time including Misfortune. And so we should be getting to deal 6 damage with Misfortune off of the remaining love taps. And then she just needs, you know, a little bit of help in terms of coming in and finishing off the game at that point. And so I think we're going to be okay in that sense. Like, I have to imagine if opponent had a Cataclysm, he would have just snapped it off already, right? You can Cataclysm the Saurion into Misfortune and call it a day. But and say, I feel like he's out here deciding which unit he wants to add to the board. And so I think that should leave us in a good spot. The other kind of bummer / downside potential here is going to be a Harsh Winds, but I think we're in good shape against Harsh Winds. We can beat that. Right? He has to Harsh Winds the Misfortune because she's going to pick up Overwhelm on the next attack. Guess there's no Harsh Winds. So he can't actually flash freeze her anymore, right? We're just okay. We can send this attack in. He's gonna get...
No regrets, no
yeah, this is fine. He gets to block both of our units, doesn't take any damage, and then we get to make that one last attack with Misfortune. He's not gonna have any blockers. We're gonna be able to overwhelm and stuff. Pretty good. We got a cat. Got a cat right here at the end of the day. Say what up, Pepper. Happy to be a part of the Scouts video. Talk about Taylor Swift. She's happy, I can tell. All right. Victory achieved. Victory unlocked. Not a bad set of battles. That's where we're going to call it for today. So again, we can pull this up. We can talk about it a little bit more. Again, one of the kind of issues that I start to run into these formats is like our usage of Fleet Feather Tracker. I'm not a huge fan of the Fleet Feather Tracker. It's easy to get into these games where it's like, okay, well, I've got the tracker, and then I've got a Misfortune, and now I get this opportunity to hook opponent's 1 health unit, and I'm fine with that. But like what we've really kind of seen this meta evolve to here in recent times is... we just see so many 3 health units, right? Like I had really been advocating in the past few metas to look towards 3 health units as a kind of combat to Samira, right? If you played a Frostcoat Cub against a Samira, it just shuts their game plan down for so long. But as this set has kind of progressed and like morphed and evolved, and we have Mariam coming out of the Janna decks, and we have the Frostcoat Cubs coming out of the the Warden of the Tribes deck, you just don't run into like nearly as many spots to where you just get to straight up attack with the Fleet Feather Tracker and offer up a trade, or there's not enough like high valued units for the Fleet Feather Tracker to actually want to take down, right? Nyla running around with 3 health, you can't take her down. And so it's just like all at the end of the day, not a card I'm particularly happy with. And so I don't advocate for completely cutting it, but I think with this deck we want to cut down one Fleet Feather Tracker and then pick up the third Island Navigator. I think that starts to get us into a very interesting space in terms of finally having, the full 9 unit summoners. Like, that was what we were really shooting for every single game, is like, I want the unit summoner. I want the unit summoner. We most certainly are going to want the 3 copies of Island Navigator. The next kind of question I have is like how high we're going to value this blocking Badger Bear. I could definitely see an argument for cutting the one copy of Badger Bear for a Cataclysm. We again run into so many of these games to where we're just putting units on the board and passing, units on the board and passing, units on the board and passing, and we don't have a ton of interactivity, especially as we're looking to maybe cut a Fleet Feather Tracker out of the deck. I could see that being an upgrade there. It's not a unit that combats a lot of stuff out of the Gnar deck well, but on the flip side of the coin, if we're looking to be quite good against the kind of counter decks to the Gnar deck, the various elusives-based decks of the world, then it does start to shine a little bit more. And so that's one I could see an argument for it either way. On the latter, maybe we would kind of prefer to drop the Badger Bear, but in the space of the best of 3, maybe we want the second Cataclysm. I'm not entirely certain there. I'll need a little bit more games. But otherwise, as a kind of first go, I've been quite happy with this. Not wanting to do that stuff to where we have extra like Quinn birds within the actual deck list and stuff. I'm quite happy with how the deck is. It's just those last little tweaks I think we need to make, and I think that's probably getting on point. -1 Fleet Feather Tracker, -1 Badger Bear, +1 Island Navigator, +1 Cataclysm, in terms of getting into a pretty tight deck list. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and thank you for being here.